Thank you. I'm excited to be with you today. We had some technical difficulties at the start here, so I'm going to proceed without my notes. We'll see how this goes. Like he mentioned, my name is Michael Janda, and before I get started with my lecture, I have a couple of giveaways at the end. First, we're going to be giving away 2 copies of my book. And in order to, the way to enter the giveaway is to hashtag Burn Your Portfolio on Twitter or Instagram, or both. We'll give away a book on Twitter and a book on Instagram. Just tweet something or tweet a photo or something, and then you'll be entered in to win, and we'll give away 2 copies of the book. And we'll also be giving away a couple of our Riser t-shirts. We custom illustrated some of our favorite characters, and we riserized some famous phrases. So instead of the force is strong with this one, it's the riser is strong with this one. We'll give away a Spock t-shirt, live long and riser, and then a Yoda t-shirt, use the force riser. So that's what we'll be entering in to win after I'm finished. Just enter by hashtagging Burn Your Portfolio on Twitter and Instagram. And those are my handles on both of those. So let's get started at the beginning. This is me in 1972. And as you can see, I haven't changed very much since then. I was born in Chicago. I'm a huge Chicago Bears fan, and I also grew up in a really creative family, in a creative environment. My parents fostered creativity. So that's me right there. In 2002, I founded the design agency Riser. And Riser, we're based in Pleasant Grove. He mentioned a few things about us. I'll give you a little tour of our office. This is our office off the Pleasant Grove exit. A little shot of our lobby. And I'll take you around. We bought this space in 2011. And we were able to design it and build it out just how we wanted. So it was a fun, creative opportunity for us. So we created a big open bullpen area for our design and production programming teams to collaborate. We also have some fun diversions, foosball and ping pong, nice conference room, and then some glass walls and things back into the lobby area. And in our lobby, we show off some of our awards. Last year, we made the Inc. 5000, which we were excited about, number 1657, fastest growing company in the nation, which was an exciting award for us on a national level. And then in our lobby, one of our most prized possessions is our bobblehead collection. We have 73 bobbleheads, and a couple weeks ago I was instant messaging our office manager, and I asked her how many bobbleheads we had, and her response was, because she sits up there, her response was, we don't have room for any more. She didn't tell me the number. She said, we don't have room for any more. I think she thought I was going on another bobblehead buying spree. So we love that. And last year we had our team bobblefied at the end of the year. It's a pretty good likeness. You can see me in the middle there. They did a great job. So some of the clients that we get to do work for, we do some exciting work. So we do a lot of work for Disney, for ABC, TV Guide, Bratz, National Geographic, NBC, Warner Brothers, YouTube, Google. Google has been our biggest client the last couple of years, and it gives us access to some pretty cool places. So this is at the Google campus a couple of weeks ago. It was about a month ago now. We get to go and tour and visit our clients in those places. We also spend time on the Disney studio lot, which is fun. Sony Pictures, we spent a few days there on our last trip. And then Fox, where I actually used to work. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And Warner Brothers. So we get to go to some fun, exciting places. We've had meetings in 30 Rock and NBC in New York. Gone to the YouTube building. We get to visit some exciting places. Some of the projects that we've done. This is earlier this year. We did the Live with Kelly and Michael Strahan website for ABC. We also did, a couple years ago, a big project for Pepsi. Pepsi owns Tropicana, and they hired us to do this big virtual world to support a product launch. So we had 3 flavored worlds, the apple world, cherry world, and grape world. And each world had animation and games and all kinds of exciting things for the kids, the target audience, to participate in. We've done work for some of the biggest shows on television, Desperate Housewives, Lost. When Lost was popular, we did a ton of games for Lost. And then Ugly Betty, when that was a popular show on ABC, we did the website for that a couple of times. Disney's hired us to work with some big brands like The Incredibles and Cars. They also had us do a big project for Hannah Montana a few years ago before she got all nasty a couple weeks ago. I got to admit, I don't even know what twerking is. I never watched the video, but I know that she's probably not in the Disney lineup anymore. And then when Disney bought Club Penguin in 2008, I believe, they paid $700 million for Club Penguin, and they hired us to do the redesign. So that was a feather in our cap anytime somebody buys a brand for almost $1 billion and you're given the redesign project. We were proud and happy of that project. Bratz.com was a big client for a number of years, and most of the games on Bratz.com were done by our team. And when we were doing all these games, all our team except for the office manager were guys, and they were all drinking Red Bull and playing Call of Duty and stuff. And then during the day, we'd all be making Bratz games, and we all had Bratz dolls all over our desks. So it was fun. We had to get in touch with the little girl inside all of us when we were doing this. So most of those games on Bratz were done by us. We found that if you just put sparkles and butterflies on everything, the girls seem to keep coming back to play the games. And so that was our little trick of the trade there. Warner Brothers hired us to do the big Lego Batman video game website. And then I mentioned Google at the start. They have us do a ton of marketing websites, video work. We're doing HTML5. We're doing a lot of illustration, custom illustration work, infographics, things, all for to promote and market Google's products. And they have a lot of products, and they have deep pockets. They pay on time, which is exciting for Google. So 2008 rolls around, and I had been at it for 6 years. And we had started to get noticed in the design community, and I got invited to speak in Nashville at a lecture. It was called the Think Tank, and it was by AIGA. It's a big design organization. And so I look into what I'm doing for my career. We had this agency. We had 6 years. I think we had a dozen employees at the time. And I was looking at what we're doing, and I thought, what makes us different? Why do we have clients like Disney and Google and Warner Brothers and Sony? And I realized that it's not just that we do great work, but it was the intangibles that we do. It was the communication, the customer experience, these intangibles. It wasn't just the design work, the quality of work that we were producing. And so at this design conference, I decided to speak on non-design things. And I spoke on, I titled my talk, Nuggets from the Trenches. I shared 24 non-design things to this group of designers. And I had great feedback afterwards. Now, I was sharing some really critical, important, serious business topics, like polishing turds. This is not verbatimville. Drama is for soap operas, the Venus Initiative, vicious vernacular, hairy moles, and a number of others. So I shared these with this group of non-designers, and I had great feedback. And I sat down and I thought, man, I just gave away some of my secrets to success. And so it made me a little nervous because I had never even blogged some of these ideas. And so I think on the plane ride home, I started writing a book. My friend who was there gave me that idea. He thought, man, I want to put these up in my office in his little design agency. And so 5 years later, my book was published. And I didn't write it for 5 years. I was running my business at the same time, but I was finding time to write it in the nooks and crannies of my life. And the 24 nuggets that I shared there had become 111 nuggets, and it spanned over 400 pages. And so this was a proud moment for me getting this first book published. So today I'm going to share with you 12 nuggets from success that are from my book. Let's start with one of the most important ones. This is me in high school. You love the acid wash jeans and the kind of pseudo mullet going on there. I was the art guy, you know. I played sports and stuff, but I was in my art classes, that's where I shined. I was teacher's pet. I took them all, everything from ceramics to sculpture to printmaking, drawing, painting, everything. Teacher's pet in all these classes. I loved art. My parents at home fostered this creative environment. I played with Legos. I collected comic books. I did all these things. And so that's me in high school. And so I go to college, and I follow my friends, and we go to Indiana University. and it's time to pick a major. And so I decide to go into business school, because all my friends were going into business school. I left all my art supplies behind, and I thought, I don't want to be a starving artist the rest of my life. So I'm going to go to business school. I can get a job in business. And I left my art love behind. And by midterm, second semester of my freshman year of college, I had amassed a whopping 0.9 GPA. Everybody can see the point on that, right, in front of the 9. So 0.9 GPA, and I'm freaked out. My parents are freaked out. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm going to flunk out of college. This isn't the plan that I wanted. And so I get freaked out, and by the end of that semester, I kind of changed things around. I started going to class, which I found was important. And by the end of that semester, I had raised my grade to a 1.8 GPA. Now, not many people can say that they doubled their GPA in a half a semester. So I was proud of this. But IU was not as proud, and they put me on academic probation, and I went home for the summer. And that summer, my parents got me a book. This book right here, Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow, by Marcia Sinitar. Now, this is the book cover that changed my life. And I say book cover because I never actually read the book, as you might tell by my GPA. But the cover was enough. The cover was enough to change the course of my life, and I decided to go back to IU as an art major. And I graduated with a 3.93 GPA in my major, and so I found success following the advice of that cover. Steve Jobs says, what you choose to do has got to be something that you're passionate about, because otherwise you won't have the perseverance to see it through. Love that quote. So do what you love, the money will follow. This was the advice that really set me on the right course for my career and made all the difference. I feel oftentimes like I'm just doing my hobby for a living. So nugget number 2. So I graduate from college, and I've got this giant faux leather portfolio filled with stuff. You still see these things floating around, right? You might see somebody walking around campus, one of these giant things. And this thing was huge. It wouldn't even fit in my car. And I go out, and I know I'm going to go and land at this hoity-toity design agency. Somebody on Madison Avenue is going to hire me, and it's going to be exciting. I'm going to land at one of these places. So I start applying all over the place. And then one tearful month later, I had had 2 interviews, no job offers. And I'm down in the dumps. I'm talking to my wife about maybe going to get my telemarketing job back and stuff. And then finally the day came where I got my first job as a professional graphic designer at Alpha Graphics. And this wasn't just any Alpha Graphics. This was the Alpha Graphics in the strip mall in Murray, Utah. And I was getting $9 an hour, punching a clock, and I would help prep files for press, and then I'd help unjam copiers and whatnot over at Alpha Graphics. So that was my first real design job, and it really was a design job, because you can see on the neon sign out in front of Alpha Graphics that it says design right there in between open and print. So this is what I was doing, and this wasn't exactly the hoity-toity start to my career that I had dreamed of, or that Marcia's book promised me. $9 an hour wasn't quite there, so I wasn't satisfied. And so during the day I was unjamming copiers, and at night I was doing something a lot more important. I had purchased a state-of-the-art Apple computer. This is my first computer. We spent $2,300 on it. I think I had to give a blood oath to my wife that I'd someday pay it off. I mean, $2,300 when you were making $9 an hour is not, it might as well be $1 million. So I take this computer, and at night I'm teaching myself web design, HTML, uploading sites to servers and stuff. And this is 1996. Nobody's doing web design in 1996. Very, very small amount of people. And that self-education, I became thirsty and hungry for self-education. And it leads me to this nugget. So what are you doing with your downtime? Where do you want your career to go? And how are you going to get it there? You have to ask yourself those questions, because the answers, that's the easy part. The answers, you have them in your pocket. I see half the class has a laptop on their lap right now. The answers are the easy part, especially now. You've got unlimited resources for answers. You have to be asking the right questions. You have to decide where you want to go and how you're going to get there, and then self-educate. I always tell people that in college I learned how to learn. But after school is when I really learned all the things that I needed to know to find success in my career. So nugget number 3. So this newfound knowledge starts paying off in 1998. I was hired by a company in Phoenix, Arizona to be their webmaster. It was a toy game book company. And the CEO of the company hired me to build their website. They had a little one-page or something. And he had this vision that people would come to the site and they would go to a bookshelf and they'd click on a book. The book would come off the shelf. They could preview it, stick it in their shopping cart, and they could buy the book. That was his vision for his line of books. 10 years later, Apple released their virtual bookshelf. So this CEO is definitely forward-thinking. Nothing like that existed at the time. Early 1998, late 1997, that kind of thing didn't exist. You see it all the time now. But back then, it wasn't there. So I take this assignment from the CEO, and I decide instead of just doing a bookshelf, I was going to 3D model a room. I had taught myself 3D modeling. 3D model a room, and I put multiple bookshelves in it. It kind of made a little bookstore thing. And you could click around. You could click on the trash can, and this ball would bounce out of it. You could click on multiple bookshelves, pull off books. You could put them in the shopping cart, all the things that he wanted. But I also had characters from his books jumping out and stuff with little word bubbles and sound effects and things. And so I show this to the CEO. He had asked for a bookshelf, and I gave him this bookstore, this book room. And he was blown away. He was excited. And then he says, oh, man, this is awesome. This is better than I thought it was going to be. Can you add another room onto this store? Put a door on there, and when somebody clicks on it, it goes into the CEO office, and they can learn about the company. You know, click on the file cabinet, and they can see info about the company and stuff. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so I go back to the drawing board, and instead of just adding one room to the thing, I decide I'm going to 3D model a building on the outside, and you click on the front door, and you go in, and then you choose what door you want to go in. I put multiple rooms in there, and it was cool. And he had asked for one room. I gave him a whole building. And then he comes back. He's like, oh, man, this is awesome. I'm going to promote you to creative director. Here's a raise. Let's start hiring people. And he asked for another building to be added, and I gave him a town. And then he asked for another town, and I gave him a whole world. And it was called Oh Kid World. And I was always trying to be one step ahead of what the CEO was asking, which we did. He'd call me every morning at 7 o'clock, ask me what we launched the day before and what we were working on today. And so this Oh Kid World was this whole planet, and it had multiple towns, multiple geographic environments. It had games, cartoons, a whole cast of characters. And this is 1998, 1999. Nothing existed like this. Club Penguin was sold to Disney 9 years later for $700 million. And so this was like on the cutting edge. I had $1 million of stock options. He was parading it around to venture capitalists, bringing in all this VC money and stuff. It was exciting. And then all of a sudden, he stops coming into the office. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. He's out driving his Ferrari because he bought a Ferrari, and he's putting on a big addition onto his home. So he must be busy in that. And then the CFO comes into the office, and he says, hey, there's no money. So you have to lay off half your team. At this time, I was managing a team of 26 people that I had hired. He said, there's no money. You have to lay off half your team. So I bring in 13 people, and they're coming into the conference room. Girls are crying. This crazy programmer guy's like, I'm going to go get a gun. You know, he's doing that whole thing. So it was freaky. I was 28 years old. I was freaked out. And then a couple weeks later, instead of getting my final paycheck, I was given my computer instead of my final paycheck, which I wish I would have had my paycheck instead. That would have paid my mortgage payment easier. So, oh, kid, and hopefully the CEO learned this lesson. Don't do that. Don't take the VC money and then don't use it for the right things. The lesson I learned that I was finding as success at this time was that you must exceed expectations. You've got to go the extra mile. If your client is expecting something at 3, give it to them at 2. If they're expecting 3 things, give them 5. Always exceed expectations. Go that extra step. So nugget number 4. Fortunately, this was an exciting time in the economy, and I started going job hunting, and a week later, I landed a job at Fox in Los Angeles. So we moved from Phoenix to Los Angeles. It took me 1 week to find this job. I was creative director. I had an office in the Fox Plaza, which is also known as the Nakatomi Plaza, which is best known as the Die Hard building. Have you guys seen Die Hard? People seen Die Hard, right? Okay. Sometimes when I talk to younger groups, it makes me feel old that they haven't seen Die Hard. Everybody's got to see Die Hard. So I'm at Fox for a couple years, and I never saw Bruce Willis when I was at Fox, which was disappointing. I looked for him every time I went into the elevator, and I listened for him in the elevator shafts. But I know one thing about Bruce Willis. He's got an awesome haircut. That's one thing I know about Bruce Willis. So at Fox, I'm managing now a team of 50 people. We're doing the design, marketing, development for all of the things relating to Fox Kids Online and Fox Family Online. So everything digital with those two brands, I was responsible for. The visual, the editorial, the programming. This was an exciting time in my career. I started to get some confidence, thinking, oh man, I'm here now. I'm with a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm going places. I got an office. I got a director title. This is exciting. But unfortunately, nothing lasts forever. And after 9/11, we had the dot bomb, the collapse of the internet industry. And not everybody, but a lot of companies started to fold. Big companies like eToys, publicly traded companies. And it had this trickle effect inside the tech community, and there was a lot of downsizing. So Fox sold off our divisions to Disney, and they began to dismantle our divisions and let all these production people go. And so it lasted about a year and a half. I was picking names off of our team list, and then I was finally let go at Fox. And I never found a job after this. And technically, I think I'm still unemployed, and I'm going to go to the unemployment office, see what the statute of limitations is on collecting unemployment. I think I got some back pay coming. But some of my marketing friends were finding work. And so these are my marketing friends from Fox and where they landed. So Warner Brothers, FX Networks, ABC Family, Sony, and I'm still bald in this picture. So these are where some of my friends landed. Let me tell you a little story about Twee in the middle. Twee, when I knew her at Fox, she was an intern. She was going to school at UCLA, and she was an intern. And this was in, and I started freelancing. I started my company in 2002, and by 2007, my friendship with Twee had been worth $1.6 million of business to my company. So Twee comes to my office one day when she's an intern at UCLA, and I knew her name. I had been in a meeting or two with her, but we had never spoken. She knocks on the door. She comes in, and she's like, hey, can I get a couple copies of the style guide that your team did to bring it over to the marketing director? And I said, sure. And then instead of just saying, here's the style guide, see ya, I talked to her. I say, hey, how's your internship going? What do you want to do after you graduate? When do you graduate? How are you liking your internship at Fox? How do you like UCLA? That would have been a cool place to go to school, blah, blah, blah. We had a little chit-chat. I didn't think much of it at the time. And then she graduates from UCLA. I'm freelancing with hardly any clients, and then she calls me up because she landed a job at ABC Family. She calls me up, and she gives me a project. And then one project becomes two, and two becomes four, and four becomes eight. And for the first 3 years of my freelance small business, ABC Family was by far our biggest client. Dale Carnegie said about 15% of one's financial success is due to one's technical knowledge, and about 85% is due to skill and human engineering, to personality and the ability to lead people. That's from this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is a must-read, and I have actually read this whole book multiple times, not just the cover. So that brings me to the nugget. The lesson here is be nice to everyone. You have no idea who is going to be the door to your next great opportunity, your next job opportunity, your next client opportunity. You just don't know. So be nice to your coworkers. Make friends with your bosses and with your clients and customers. Be nice to everybody. And not only does this open doors, but more importantly, it's way more fun to do business with people who you consider your friends. And this is one of our goals at Riser. We like to try and turn our clients into friends. We go and visit our clients, and we spend more time talking about their family and their lives than we do talking about business. And we enjoy working together. That's a goal at Riser. So nugget number 5. So I start freelancing, and I do this for 3 years, and I get to where I'm working 80-hour weeks. And I'm stressed out of my mind. I'm in my basement all the time. We go on a trip, and I would take my computer, and I would dial up through AOL at the hotel, and I'd work all night. And I had no vacations. It was a miserable, miserable time for me. But I was finding a lot of success, and I had a lot of work coming in. And so I went to this business retreat thing. And I'm telling this guy, this other entrepreneur, I'm telling him about my woes of I have no time. And he said that his dad gave him this advice, and this advice really changed some things for me. He said, don't do anything you can pay someone $10 an hour to do. So I look at my life, my 80 hours a week of working, and I start writing down $10 an hour things. What can I pay somebody $10 an hour to do? And I had a big list. But I was still nervous because I was a designer guy. I wasn't a business owner. So I make this list, and I'm still too scared to hire people. But my wife, she thinks that our marriage would be better, whatever, if we saw each other, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay. Okay, you're right. And so then she, one day, shows up on the driveway with the neighbor kid who's in high school, and the neighbor's kid's mom said he's really good at computers. That was his resume. You should hire him. Minimum wage. Don't pay him anything, whatever. Just have him come over after school and help you out. And so it turned out that he really was good at computers. And I've got to be honest, it felt like she was showing up on the driveway with a stray dog, and this stray dog was going to need a lot of training to become the kind of dog who's not going to pee on your carpets and be this miserable dog to have around. And it turned out he really was good at computers, and I was able to teach him some things, and he quickly became valuable. And then a couple months after that, my mother-in-law found my second employee, and this one was a graduate. He was out looking for his first job, and I got to admit, it felt the same. So now I got these two stray dog guys coming over to my basement, and they're knocking on the basement window, and they're coming to work every day, and it didn't take me long to realize that that was pretty tacky. So I went out and found some office space, cheapest office space I could find, and Janda Design Company was born. By the end of that year, I had 5 employees, and I realized I had this kind of growing little company going on. And it also brings me to nugget number 6, because I also had a paradigm shift here about hiring people. And it was this: view business in 3-month increments. So I was scared to hire people because I thought, man, a $60,000 employee, I got to pay this guy 60 grand a year. I'd rather have 60 grand a year for myself, not pay it out to somebody. I was nervous about that. Or $48,000 employee, how am I going to come up with that? But then I realized that if I view it in 3-month increments, then a $60,000 employee, I'm going to risk 15 grand on that person. And if it's not working out at the end of that 3-month batch, we're going to part ways. But if it is working out, then he's going to be paying for himself and then some. So we take a 90-day test on employees. And so I started to see things differently like this. So today, Riser costs $1.2 million a year to run. But I'm only worrying about $300,000 a year at a time, or $300,000 at a time. So it's a little bit of a paradigm shift. And ironically, when I was putting this slide together, I was thinking, that's probably why publicly traded companies release quarterly earnings. This was a light bulb to me. And then I thought, man, if I would have stayed in business school back then, or at least gotten a 1.9 GPA, I probably would have learned that, not had to learn it the hard way. So nugget number 7. So now we grow, we have a dozen employees. I had purchased a little building, and we had chaos. And I got this book. Our clients were having a good experience, but internally, it was kind of a chaotic environment. I got this book. I heard Michael Gerber speak once, The E-Myth Revisited, Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. And during this time, my small business was working on the outside. It wasn't working on the inside. And in the book, Gerber explains that in business, there's a technician, a manager, and an entrepreneur. And the technician is the doer. He's the one who thinks, okay, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. And the manager is the one who frets about the day-to-day, and the entrepreneur is the dreamer. He's my boss with the bookshelf idea, the visionary. And so I was the technician, and I've got a dozen employees now, and everything's running through me. Every proposal, every project, every email, everything. And it was miserable, and somehow I had to become the entrepreneur. Now, I made the politically correct version of this slide just so nobody gets offended. So that was my goal. And the way Gerber explains to go from technician to entrepreneur is through systems. Systems run the business and people run the systems. This was a revelation to me. And so I started creating systems for everything that I did. How I write emails, how I do projects, how I build relationships, how I manage the financials of our company. I wrote down everything. I didn't hold back. And this is why McDonald's can make a Big Mac in Argentina and still have it taste like a Big Mac in Hong Kong, because they have set systems to do that. So I started writing all these systems, and I made a little internal website, and it's called Janda Protocol. And it was for all our team to be able to access this site and see these systems that I was doing, and that was how we were running our business. So that's the nugget. Systems run the business, people run the systems. Going on to nugget number 8. We're growing. It's exciting. I had 12 employees. I got some systems. I own a little building. We even had an accountant to help with the taxes and the paperwork and things like that. And we had hired one accountant. We got convinced to change to another accountant. And it was going good at the start. This accountant, they were on top of it, responsive. They were doing our taxes. They were calling us. It was really a good experience. And then time comes that our taxes are done, and they say, hey, well, can we bring the taxes down to you? We'll bring them down to you. You can review them and sign them, and then we'll send them off. It'll be great. And we were like, oh, man, that is a huge help, because we're busy over here making systems. If you could bring us our taxes, that would be helpful. And so they do. They bring them down, and then about a week later, they send us the invoice. And they sent us the invoice for our tax prep, and it was $3,000. That was about what we expected. And then there was also a mileage fee on there for $25. And I was like, what in the heck? They offered to bring down the taxes to us. They didn't say anything about an extra fee. And in my world, $25 mileage charge has no business being on a $3,000 tax invoice, especially when you don't mention it in advance. In business, nickels and dimes are for lemonade stands. People don't like it. They don't like getting these sneak-in little fees and charges. You see it all the time on your statements. You open your Comcast bill or something, you'll see all kinds of little stuff on there. Or book a flight. You'll see all kinds of little things floating on there. Nobody likes it. So be upfront about the costs and don't charge customers something that they're not expecting. Because it's all about relationships. The long-term relationships have more value than the profit in a single transaction. This accountant didn't know that. And we dropped him and found a new accountant who doesn't nickel and dime us, and we love our accountant now. We've been using him for a few years. This accountant, a previous one, lost our business because of a $25 mileage charge. They would have made way more than that from our company over the course of the next several years. Nugget number 9. On August 19th, this past summer, I went to Amazon.com, and it was down. I was shocked, because I've been to Amazon a lot of times. I've never seen that site be down. And I found out later that day that it was down for 40 minutes, and it cost Amazon $5 million. Yeah, $5 million in that 40 minutes it was down in lost sales. And then anybody who was using Twitter about 5 years ago knows that it was down every afternoon. You go to Twitter and it'd be like overcapacity, overcapacity. I'm surprised somehow they fixed it and got public a couple weeks ago, which is good for them. And then anybody who uses a PC knows that every time they turn it on, they get the blue screen of death. It sends you back 20 years to some DOS prompt, and you've got to be like, oh, I better reinstall Windows again. That's what the PC users think. So all these businesses, these things happen in business. And we keep coming back to these companies. I went back to Amazon later that night and ordered whatever I was going to order. I didn't go somewhere else. I just thought, oh, well, I'll just wait. Because they have earned from us what I call forgiveness points. And in business, we earn and spend forgiveness points all the time. Let me tell you a personal story. So we had a client, major consumer products company, that we did a huge project. It was over a $500,000 project over the course of 9 months. And the project went awesome. We built this huge site for them. You could share recipes. It was all gamified. You earn points and spend points in the store. It was exciting. The client loved us. We hit it every time on our deliveries. They came out to see us. We took them four-wheeling up in the mountains. We went out to see them in New York a few times. We had this relationship going. It was exciting. And they were excited. And then they launched the site, and they're so excited they send out an email blast to 300,000 people to notify them of this awesome site that we had built, because they were pumped for about 10 minutes until the server crashed. And all these people go to the site and they start blogging that the site's down, and they have egg on their face, the client, and we have egg on our face, of course. And the thing that scared me the most is that we were in New York at a time with a meeting scheduled with the client for the very next day. We were going to go and have a meeting, then we were going to go to dinner, then we were going to go see James Bond. It was going to be awesome. We were looking forward to it. And then instead, we felt like we were going into a Taliban ambush, you know, dropped a bunch of Marines in there, and we're going to die. So we go into the boardroom, and the boss of the boss of the boss is in the meeting. And we're like, oh my gosh, we are done for. But we told them, I wanted to say, man, Amazon was down. Remember Twitter? It's down all the time. Servers go down. That's what I wanted to say. But I knew that wasn't what they wanted to hear. Wouldn't have done any good. And so instead, with humility, we said, look, we're sorry. We got it back up in a couple hours. We've been awesome for 9 months. We're committed to this project. We love working with you. We're not going to have this happen again. And lucky for us, they agreed. But what we knew after this meeting is that our forgiveness point bank was now 0. We had spent 9 months of forgiveness points. In 10 minutes of a server crash, they were gone. So in business, we earn and spend forgiveness points all the time. We earn them for good things, and we spend them on bad things. We earn them for exceeding expectations, for going the extra mile, for quality of work. We're earning forgiveness points all the time. We spend them when servers crash, or when we miss a communication or an email, or miss a deadline, or any of those kinds of things. Anything negative, we spend forgiveness points. Now, points are spent faster than they're earned, which stinks. You can spend 300,000 forgiveness points on one server crash. It's not a one-to-one ratio. So a major goal in business is to earn forgiveness points. You're going to need them. Nugget number 10. This is the lake I grew up on. That's my son fishing off the pier near my parents' house. And I learned a lot of things on this lake. And one of those things is that crap naturally floats to the surface. This is the channel behind my house. And it would seem like things would float back in there and they had nowhere to go. It wouldn't seem like that. It was that. They had nowhere to go. And we would see dead fish. We'd see styrofoam, plastic bottles, plastic bags, whatever it was. This crap was floating on the surface. And under the surface, we knew that there were good things. There were fish to catch. There were frogs and turtles and all this exciting stuff. You could go swimming. It was fun, but it was all under the surface of the crap and slime that was on the top. In business, it's not much different. The crap naturally floats to the surface. I found out that Amazon was down by going to USA Today. It made the front page on the USA Today. When our client's server crashed, we get to have a meeting with the boss of the boss of the boss because it floated up to the surface. And I don't know if they knew any of the 9 months of great stuff that we had done before that. And it's because good things don't seem to be as viral as bad things. The good things take effort to circulate. So my father-in-law used to say this. He used to say, you have to toot your own horn because nobody's going to toot it for you. That was one of his isms that he used to say. In business, you have to toot your own horn. You have to share with people how awesome you are. At Riser, over the kitchen sink, we have a bunch of client quotes that were unsolicited quotes of people that said awesome things about our company after we finished a project. That's there for our employees to see. We also have this big nerdy barbarian sword that we call the Sword of Initiative. In staff meeting, we vote, well, we nominate each other. So people nominate their peers for doing awesome things. And so we hear all the nominations, and then we vote on who gets to hold the sword until the next meeting. And then we also have Expose Yourself Fridays, which is an exciting thing, as you might imagine. And it's probably not what you think. Expose Yourself Fridays is an opportunity for us to get our team together and for people to show off what they're working on, show off what they're doing and the cool work that they're doing, because a lot of times you don't know what another employee is even doing at the company. So we have that. I like this quote from Wade Boggs. The positive attitude causes a chain reaction of positive thoughts, events, and outcomes. It is a catalyst, and it sparks its extraordinary results. So don't be afraid to tell people how awesome you are. That's the nugget. Nugget number 11. This is a quick one. A year and a half after I graduated, I had my first press check. This is when you go to the printer and you check out your cool thing that you finished up. And I go to this printer. I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. I'm going to, my boss trusts me. I'm getting somewhere in my career. So I go to the printer and I see the brochures that I designed, and they looked awesome. Paper was awesome. Color was awesome. And then I scan down the front of the brochure, and I realized that fax is not spelled F-Z-X. I had this massive typo on this brochure, and I felt like an idiot. I felt like I should call Alpha Graphics, get my old job back. And I adopted this personal mantra: OCD is an attribute. It's all about the details. And practice makes perfect with details. I go into restaurants, I'm looking on menus for typos, I'm looking on billboards when I drive around, I'm looking for the details everywhere I go. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, said, if you don't understand the details of your business, you are going to fail. It's all about the details: financial details, relationship details, project details, deadline details. It's all about the details. You have to understand the business details. So nugget number 12, the last one. Sometimes my career has been about polishing turds. Disney, Google, that's fine. They're great clients. We love doing work for them. But every once in a while, you get a customer who thinks they want an awesome design or awesome product or awesome creativity, but what they really want is a turd. I'll give you an example. Spacely Space Sprockets comes to our office. They're excited. They've got this new product. They want to launch it, and we're like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. We're going to design this brand for them. They're going to look like NASA. It's going to make these guys look huge. And so we design a few logos. We stick one on a t-shirt, show them how cool it's going to be. We put it on a polo shirt. Look how legit you look. We even stuck one on the space shuttle so they could see how massive this company is going to look, this brand. And we send them these logos, and they come back with their feedback. Oh, this is a decent start. But I was talking to my wife, and my wife said that she thought that the logo isn't quite getting there. You know, can you go back to the drawing board a little bit? And she thought that we should put a Pegasus on the logo, because a Pegasus is a cool animal. Everybody thinks Pegasus is legit. And so we go up and we're like, okay, we can do this. We put a Pegasus in the logo. We illustrate a cool Pegasus. We stick it in the logo, and we're like, okay, we can still live with this logo. We put it on a t-shirt, and we're still excited, and we send it to them, and then they say, hey, we're getting there. We're getting there, but I was showing it to my neighbor, and my neighbor was like, the Pegasus, too abstract. Nobody can tell it's a Pegasus. It needs to be more detailed. And my neighbor's son is a really good artist, so he drew a Pegasus for you to stick in the logo. Can you put this Pegasus in the logo exactly how you did it? We're like, okay, this is the moment we know that we're now polishing turds. That the client doesn't want our best creativity or our best design. They want what they want, and they're entitled to what they want. We just have to change the goal from the starting goal of we want to create award-winning design. The goal now becomes we need to get done as fast as we can. Open up our shop for new opportunities of clients who don't want turds. Now, when you're polishing a turd, you don't want to just give them the ugly turd. You got to make it a pretty turd. So you want to still put in your best effort, good communication. Make sure the client has a good experience with your company. That's the polishing turd part. They want their turd, give them a really nice turd. So we stick in the logo, the neighbor's son's Pegasus, and then we change the font to Comic Sans because they love Comic Sans. They have it on their computer. And then we change the color to purple because Joe's mom's friend loves purple. We put the URL on the bottom so that everybody could find their website. And then we mocked up the logo and put it on a photo of the client, and they were pumped. This client was stoked. Everybody was going to know about Spacely Space Sprockets. And for us, $2,500 in the bank and another happy customer. So polishing turds happens. Now, in case you didn't know, that's not a real client, but it is a real experience. And it happens in every type of business where we have to do what the customer is wanting. Now, the nugget here is that we identify what the customer wants, and then we satisfy that desire. That's a business principle that comes out of that. So I almost called my book Polishing Turds, but I didn't want to be known as the turd guy for the rest of my career. And the publisher couldn't bring themselves to publish a book called Polishing Turds, so we called it Burn Your Portfolio. And that's what I've been here trying to share with you today. A portfolio for a designer is your ability to get a job. It's what gets you in the door. And there's portfolios, metaphorically, in all kinds of business. A lawyer has diplomas and certifications. Electricians have certifications. But those are the things that get you the job. What finds success are the intangibles, your ability to communicate, to lead others, to have some business intuition. It's those things. And the objective is to build your reputation. And then one day you'll be able to burn your portfolio because you just won't need it anymore. And that is a magical day. Thank you.